The guitarists who are going to have the easiest time progressing at the instrument are the ones who are able to take new skills and relate them to concepts they already know and understand how to play. So in today's video, we're going to look at a framework for applying your pentatonic scales, your triads, your diatonic major key, and your chords all in one place. But before we get into practicing this and learning some exercises, I think it's relevant to share a short story about how I came across this system. When I first auditioned for music school, I actually failed my first audition. But the instructor said to me, if you learn this system and come back in a couple months' time, we'll give you another shot. And luckily, I passed the second audition. But I only learned this system because I was essentially forced to. I didn't want to fail the audition. But at the time, I had no clue how valuable this was going to be for my playing in the future. It's allowed me to unlock how to play across any key and play through the chord changes anywhere on the fretboard. It's completely unlocked the guitar for me. And I think it also speaks volumes that esteemed university professors are trying to guide me on this path and help me learn this system. And it's actually worked. So I think that kind of speaks volumes that not only London university professors are guiding me and advising me to learn this, but two, from anecdotal experience from myself, it's actually worked. So if this sounds interesting to you, this is something you want to apply to the fretboard, I suggest you keep watching. So first, I'm going to explain what the system is. Then we're going to look at how we can map pentatonics on top of the system. And then we're going to look at how we can map triads on top of that too. So what we're going to learn today is something called the 3-note per string system. We can use it to play the major scale all the way across the fretboard. And I'm just going to show you every single position first. And again, I'm going to put some diagrams on screen. You can also find all these diagrams in my free school community. There'll be a link in the description to join. So we're going to play it in G major today. The first position is going to work over the top of this G major bar chord like this over here. And it looks like this. So that's our first position. Again, comes over there from that G major bar chord, which is the first chord in our G major key, right? The second scale position comes from the second chord in our key, which is A minor, and it looks like this. Then the third position in our scale system comes from the B minor chord, which is the third chord in our key, and the scale position looks something like this. Now, you've probably guessed the pattern here. The fourth position is going to come from the fourth chord in our key, which is C major, and the scale position looks like this. Now the fifth position comes from the fifth chord in our key, which is D major, and the scale position looks like this. The sixth chord in our key comes from the sixth scale position in our key comes from the sixth chord, which is E minor, and it looks like this. Finally, the seventh scale position in our scale system comes from the seventh chord in our key, which is going to be this like F sharp diminished, and the scale position looks like this. And then finally, once we've finished that, we go back to the very first scale position all the way up an octave, which is the same as all this stuff down here by G major. So again, each shape starts from a diatonic chord in your key. So yeah, again, we've got like G major as the first position, A minor the second, B minor, and so on and so on and so on. Now let's look at how we can map the pentatonic shapes over the top of these scale positions. Again, if you don't know how to play the scales, there is a link to join my school community in the description. There'll be PDFs on there. So this 3-note per string system actually houses all the pentatonic scales in your key as well. So it houses 6 pentatonic scales. So that's 3 major ones and 3 minor ones. So for example, if we go back to this G major over here, we have this first position that we can kind of play around here. But you might be thinking like, I don't really know how to use this. I mean, I can sort of play the scale, but like this, it seems like just a separate new thing. Like I said earlier, we need to constantly relate these ideas back to things we already know how to play. So we can actually branch this into a pentatonic shape that I'm sure we already know how to play. So if we have this G major chord over here, we can play this G major pentatonic. We have that kind of like G major pentatonic over here. Let me play the scale properly for you. So we have that G major pentatonic over there. And then we have, from here, this 3-note per string G major scale as well. So we can start combining both of these together now. Right, so you can see you can mix both of those kind of scale positions together, and it all exists around this kind of G major bar chord that we already know how to play as well. This works for every single position inside these 3-note per string systems, right? So we have the A minor chord, the second chord in our key, right? We have this second scale position here as well, right? But again, like, what if this is just something completely new? We don't know how to use it. Everyone knows how to play this pentatonic scale, right? What if we combine both of those together now? So we have this, we have the pentatonic, and we also have this second position that's kind of around this area too. So when we combine like the pentatonic scale with this second position of the 3-note per string scale, we can go like... right? And you might not even realize it. When you're doing that, when you're combining these 3-note per string major positions with these pentatonics, you're actually playing modal scales. It's like a shortcut and a cheat code to playing the modes, right? You don't have to learn kind of all these new things. You have to relate it back to the pentatonics you're already comfortable with. And again, this works for every single position in the 3-note per string scale, apart from the 7th one, because that's over a diminished chord. So you can forget about the 7th position. But again, for positions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, you can pair a pentatonic on all of them. So again, position 3, we have this B minor over here. We have this 3-note per string scale that's from the 3rd position. Right? But we can also play the pentatonic around this as well. So we can play the B minor pentatonic. So if we combine that kind of scale position with that B minor pentatonic as well, we're actually playing in B Phrygian. And again, it all exists around this B minor chord. Exact same thing works again for the 4th position and the 4th chord in your key. C major, we can play the C major pentatonic. And again, if we understand the 4th position of the 3-note per string scale, combine that with the C major pentatonic, we get a Lydian scale, right? So this is the shortcut to unlocking how to play modes on the guitar as well. Again, what we have to do is relate these concepts, these new things that we're learning, onto things we already understand how to play, and then it's going to be so much easier to progress at the instrument. So now we've kind of got an idea of how to do this with modes. Again, you can do this for every single pentatonic scale, starting from that root note for the chord in your key. Let's look at how we can map out triads on the top of these 3-note per string scales as well. If I go back to the 1st position over here, I have this kind of like 1st position which works over this G major chord as well. So if we look at the root notes inside this position of G, we can find that note G over here on the 5th fret of the D string, and then we can play the 3rd from G, and then the 5th from that 3rd, and then we get a major triad, which again exists around that 1st position of the G major 3-note per string system, right? So that means when I'm playing this G major triad, I can decorate it with that 3 note per string major scale that exists right around it. And it gives you this kind of like G major type of sound. It's going to sound like you're playing over the chord, playing through those chord changes. Again, this works for every single scale position, right? So let's go to the second position over here. So it's going to be over A minor. Got this kind of scale position here, right? So again, look at the root note. Find where it exists inside that scale. We've got over here on the 7th fret, the note A. And we can play the root, minor third, 5th from there, which gives us this triad, right? Again, if we play around this triad and also decorate it with the scale shapes, we're going to be playing through that chord with this scale. Right? And this kind of might seem like, okay, this is kind of understandable, but this doesn't seem like you can play all over the neck. Well, the cool thing is, we know that we can invert triads, right? We have a root position, and then we can play that same G major over here with its first inversion. Now you'll see this first inversion for G major actually lines up with that third position of the 3 note per string scale. So now we've got 2 places to play around this G major and decorate it with scale tones, right? So I have like... Right? We have this G major sound now. So now we have 2 spots on the fretboard in which we can work between, and we can go through these scale positions. So I can go like... So I can kind of play chord tones all the way across the neck with this by using inversions and finding out where they map over different scale positions of the 3 note per string system. And again, this works for every single chord in your key as well, right? So let's say we have A minor. Again, we kind of discussed around this kind of triad and this kind of like second position over here. But again, let's invert this over here. And now we can play this first inversion of the A minor triad around this 4th position of the 3 note per string system, which again gives us 2 spots all the way across the fretboard to play these triads and map them out all together and kind of just find all these scale tones all around to improvise with. So let's say we start over here and then I build my way up. It's going to give you a way to play all the way across the fretboard instead of just being stuck and locked into one position. Again, this works for every single chord in your key. If you learn how to invert these triads, there's going to be positions everywhere to map out triads on top of these 3 note per string scales. So I heavily advise that you understand and learn how to play this system, because again, pentatonics fit over the top of them. Your triads fit over the top of them. And again, it's going to give you a framework to apply your basic music theory of understanding like how chord progressions work, how diatonic harmony works and things like that. Again, this has been the foundation for my guitar playing. Everything else new that I add on top of, I add it on because I know how to play it with the 3 note per string system. It makes things so much simpler to understand and evolve your guitar playing. If you enjoyed this video, you can check out another one right over here. We also have a free school community. Like I said earlier, there is PDF diagrams of all the stuff we covered in today's video in the description. I highly recommend you join it.